make sure I see her more this year. I'm not going to wait for another year to see Lalah Delia, but she was here last year. The response was so amazing on our first day last year. We invited her back on our first day this year. She's a prominent spiritual practitioner, wellness educator, instructor, founder, creator, best-selling author of Vibrate Higher Daily, Live Your Power. Lalah Delia is back, as I said, to get our minds and heads and hearts right for this year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Tavis, and Happy New Year to the KBLA community, listeners, and all alike.
It's good to see you. Good to see you. I let George frame his half hour the way he wanted to frame it, and I'll give you the same option here. How do you want to frame these less than 30 minutes that we have together here?
Yeah, I say let's get grounded for the new year. A lot of what I've heard of people coming out of 2020, they're like, I'm exhausted. And we have to remember, you're not just exhausted from 2020. Of 2022, but from 2020, you know, when the pandemic hit, let alone what you were working through before that. But a lot of times when you do come out of a very challenging time, the exhaustion hits because we've been in survival mode. And that survival mode exhaustion is real. And that's something that we have to acknowledge and speak to. And just know that if you're exhausted, it's okay. It's normal. You're feeling, but there is a way to vibrate higher out of that. Let's take our power back. Let's step into our wellness, our mental health, our emotional health, and let's set boundaries. Like, let's really set the energetics up to support us this year. The good news is that even though you're carrying it, we can shift that. We can change that. And so the work of what's called, are you familiar with epigenetics?
I am indeed.
I love it, right? So that lets us know that my DNA does not have to stay the same. I don't have to get the high blood pressure that grandmama and them got, that my mother had, or the diabetes. If I make intentional decisions, I can intentionally and deliberately change my life, change my trajectory, which is so good and it's so freeing. So the same thing happens with mental health and wellness as well. We can make deliberate changes to say, I'm not going to stay here. I may have arrived here. And sometimes, especially our people, you know, we hit the planet at a disadvantage, you know, straight into survival mode. And we've been trying to find our way ever since. And some of us struggling for our lives, you know, really struggling for our lives to really fit in a world where it makes sense for us and we feel that we're having some type of a progression happening, you know. So vibrating higher for me was that way, and that's what I teach, because you can take your emotions, your stress level, the survival that you have been in, and you could turn it around and say, where in this is my story? Like, what's my unique story in the struggle? And your unique story is what makes a way for you in the world. It's in the business world, they call it a niche, right? But there's something beautiful and if I can even magical about you, right? And it's divine, but it's really divine about you. And it's your unique tone, aspect, gifts in the struggle that makes you you, that makes your art unique, that makes your song unique, that makes your books unique, that makes your foods unique, your home. Everything about you is just completely filtered through your divine gifts. And so when we can live through that, no matter what we go through, then we have a sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose gets us up every day and reminds us of who we are. Page 1 of my book I shared last year is that it says she remembered who she was and the game changed.
Yep, I remember that.
No matter where you're born and what you go through, it's just remembering, like, this is not it. I'm born in this, but why was I sent to this, right? And then just remember, you're the hero in this story. And that's really where I feel the pivot happens, when you realize that you're the hero in your story.
I love your the way you brand the work that you do. I held on to this notion of vibrating higher all last year because we met around this time a year ago. I held on to that throughout the entire year of 2022, this notion of every day trying to vibrate a little higher, put it another way, turn up the frequency, right?
That's right.
I held on to that for the entire year because I love that vibrate higher notion. But when I read your work, as I have a great deal more in the last year, and you talk about energy, sometimes these these words are hard to define. But when you talk about energy, unpack that for me.
Yeah. So energy, and I'm very happy to be able to unpack that because energy covers so much of who we are. It's the way we speak. It's the tone of voice we use. It's the color we have in our home. It's the way we have things positioned in our home. It's the way we see the world, our perspective, how our emotional state is, like everything, what we eat. So it's just a world of energetics. Everything is moving and vibrating. And then when we look in under a microscope, on an atomic level, everything about us is vibrating. So it's just an illusion that we're these solid beings. Even this table looks solid, but if you zoom into a microscope, it's tiny particles moving in motion. They're vibrating. And how they're vibrating is according to a certain frequency. So how that translates to us is the way I'm vibrating today is if my mood is clear, if I'm not holding on to anything that happened last week. I'm no bitterness is in my energy field, and I'm feeling clear, and I'm clear about setting my boundaries today. I'm going to be vibrating in power and empowerment. If I wake up and I'm feeling defeated and I can't set boundaries and I can't get over something that happened this week, I'm vibrating maybe in anxiety and stress and overthinking. So we really want to be mindful, because what happens is the more that we vibrate in a certain energy, it's moving us in a certain direction frequency wise. And that now is messing with your manifestation powers. And that's important because everything that you're getting has a potential to be informed by how you manifest. And this was something that was just earth shaking for me to realize this, but life changing. And it's what I live and breathe by today.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Our guest is Lalah Delia. Honored to have her in here. Her book is called Vibrate Higher Daily, Live Your Power. I discovered this book last year when she came to see us, and I got it and read it and reread it a couple of times, in fact. As I said earlier in this conversation, I tried to focus on this myself last year about vibrating higher. There's energy around us. I believe that there's frequency. I believe that we can vibrate higher every day. And for those who don't believe it, I can even bring in a biblical edict. The Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, against principalities, against the rulers of darkness of this world. So even when you don't think that there's stuff out there moving around you, it's moving. And you have to navigate through that. And one of the prayers I pray every day, this is an old school prayer, right? I pray, Father, keep me protected from dangers seen and unseen. That's what the old folk used to pray, protecting me from dangers seen and unseen. Now that I'm older, I get what they're talking about. Some of the stuff you see coming at you, some of the stuff you can't see, but these forces, these energy forces around you will keep you from vibrating higher daily if you're not focused on the kind of energy that you want around you, the kind of energy you want into you. And we've been talking about that with Lalah in this hour, but we were talking a moment ago specifically about this notion of manifesting. So take it away, Lalah.
Right. Well, that was a great introduction to manifesting, because that's also another thing that people may know it well as the law of attraction, manifestation. That's biblical as well, right? Speak or think as though it already was.
Call those things that are not
as though they were.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's knowing what I know now about energetics lets me all the more appreciate the Bible. Now I could really get it. Like now it's really mine now when I read it, and I can apply it into my life. And the Bible is all about energetics. And I have to tell, Christ. Hold up. You're not doing this.
It happens. It's live radio. Go ahead.
India literally came to make sure that.
Okay. India, your mama's phone went off. She didn't follow your instructions. But I digress. Go ahead, Larry. I'm sorry.
I see that as confirmation of what I was saying. Okay. Yeah. So Christ, Yeshua, would totally be on this right now, right? And during that time, it was probably like, oh, this is woo-woo and, just kind of out there. But like you said, call it what you want. But we cannot deny that there is something happening. There is a force that is at work. And when we get in touch with that force, we know we can help to guide it, and we can help to shape it towards our lives and towards our goals, towards our intentions, towards healing us, towards making our lives better, getting out of survival mode. The good news is that we don't have to stay there. And our time now is understanding the energetics that have get us out. This is what secret societies were using. It's mainstream right now, and give thanks. I always see it as divine intervention for us to have this knowledge, for us to know it. Not just the alchemists, not just the secret society, but for the everyday person to use this force that is with them. And it's almost like, when there used to be the priest to give us the Bible, the words, that was the same thing. There's no more gatekeepers. You can have straight access. The main way to sum it up is that if there's something you're looking to manifest, call in, bring into your life, it's a matter of looking at your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind runs the show, and the subconscious mind, the important thing about that is that that's the part of you that has been programmed from childhood, from the time you came onto the planet, from your parents, how they, whether they didn't struggle with money, whether they thought they could have nice things, a better way of life or not. You're taking all these messages and programs, you're taking them in as what is possible for you. And so the more that you are exposed to a certain program of lack or of abundance, you start to believe that for yourself, the subconscious mind, and you can move into life thinking, oh, I can have that, I can attain that, I can get that. Or you move into, oh, that's them, not us. So a lot of the work is just deprogramming everything that is not yours. Yeah. Burn it off, burn it away, and then step into the reprogramming, which requires seeing people that can expand your mind into what's possible for you if you haven't seen it, getting around these people, whether virtual, in real life, in books and movies, and start to really feel what it is to have this for yourself and believe it, of course. And then lastly, I would just say work on moving whatever blocks come up when it comes into your sphere, when you see it on someone else, when you see someone else having the relationship or the thing or going to the places you wanted, all that. Don't be triggered into envy. Be triggered into congratulations. Yes, deprogramming is so important. It means that you're no longer living on autopilot. You're not just waking up, going with everything as it always has been.
I like that. No longer living on autopilot.
Right.
There's one for, hold on to that one. I've been taking notes all day long, right? George Fraser set it off. Now Layla set it off. No longer living on autopilot. I love that.
Right. And that autopilot includes, am I reactive? Do I have reactivity to every conversation? Do I instantly jump into stress mode when challenges come? Do I instantly jump into reactivity when something doesn't go my way with a certain person? Or do I stop and pause and say, okay, this is a moment for me to reprogram? Another way to look at reprogramming is to think of a word called equanimity, and it's a Buddhist principle, which means that whether there's chaos stirring all the way around you, you're in your stillness, you're in your poise and composure. The biblical way is peace that surpasses all understanding, peace and be still. And then if we even go as far as, physiologically what's happening in your body, your brain is able to come out of what's called amygdala takeover. The amygdala is spiked into action and triggered into action when you get stressed, which means that you cannot access your higher thoughts, higher perception. So we need to be in a calm state to have higher thoughts, higher responses. Most of life is caused for us to live in amygdala takeover, where we're just stressed all day long from what we're watching, what we're hearing, the images that we're seeing. It's all a program.
How do you find calm in the chaos?
So you do it by breaths, getting in touch with your breath. How am I breathing? Am I breathing really fast? And you can get there by slowing the breath down. Slowing the breath down automatically sends signals to your neurotransmitters, which will start to now fire and wire, just things like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. You can access more than just cortisol. And cortisol is your stress response. So that's what's pumping through your blood when you're stressed. So we can access other parts of our brain, our neurology at that point. And that's important to know because, and if you just want to break that down, it's like your happy feelings, your good mood, your good vibes are accessed by the calmer that you are. Put on music, dance, work it out, walk it out, get in the sunshine. These are all things that help you vibrate higher. So do more of what helps you vibrate higher and get out of that cortisol. And part of my theme that I'm sharing this year is spend more time in atmospheres and environments that don't trigger you, right? And offer that to other people. Because what would happen if we are in less environments that trigger us for a whole year? Like, who are we, right? We're deprogrammed. So, and then once you're deprogrammed, you want to reprogram your mind with yes, I can, I'm magnetic, I know who I am, I'm remembering who I am, and then go towards the things that you're fearful of, because those are the things that are breaking you out of any type of box or limitation that you find yourself in.
I was just thinking, I'm so glad this studio doesn't trigger me since I spend so much time in here.
Right.
I'm glad that walking in doesn't trigger me every day.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's a blessing. It is indeed. Her name is Lalah Delia. She's a prominent spiritual practitioner, trauma-informed wellness educator, founder and instructor of Vibrate Higher Daily School, and the best-selling author of one of my favorite books that I put on my shelf last year. It's called Vibrate Higher Daily, Live Your Power. We didn't get a chance to get into that part. We'll do that next time you come back. But that whole notion of living your power
Absolutely
is a powerful thing. We'll unpack that next time you come see us. Lalah, have a great year. Good to have you back on our program again.
Thank you for having me. You too.
KBLA Talk 1580.